Welcome back to the shop, guys. Today we're going to do a fun one. We're going to build the ultimate router jig, and it's going to be more ultimate than all the other ultimate router jigs you see out there on YouTube. This was inspired by several different people. I drew some influence from people like the Samurai Carpenter. There was a fellow that doesn't talk during his videos that did a really cool mortising jig. And this is going to incorporate a ton of functions. It's going to incorporate a circle cutting jig, an ellipse cutting jig, a center finding jig, a mortising jig. You can cut tenons with it. It can be an edge guide. It's got handles on it. It's made from 1/2-inch cast acrylic, which is ultra rigid. I can't even bend this stuff. It's absolutely incredible. We're going to use a 5/16 drill bit, a 3/16 drill bit, a 1/4-20 tap. All of the threads are 1/4-20. All of the instructions are on the full-size set of plans I did. If you buy the full-size set of plans, which are on my website, you get a PDF file, a DWG file, an MMG file, so that way you can cut it on the CNC or by hand if you want to. I did another video, which was released at the same time as this one, about how to do this on the CNC. I just got a CNC machine in the shop. So much fun. I'm going to be giving away the one we built in this video today, so all you have to do is leave a comment below and be a subscriber to my channel, and I'll pick one lucky winner to give this away to. So what we're going to do is get started by cutting out our template, laying it on our piece of cast acrylic, and then we're going to start laying out some holes. We're going to use a center punch, or you could use a scratch awl for finding the exact centers of the holes, and we're going to go ahead and lay those out. So we're going to head on over to the drill press. Here we go. So based on the very detailed instructions, I'm going to go ahead and go around and center punch all my holes, and all of those are going to be 3/16 except for the router alignment hole, which is the center of where the bit comes down. That's going to be 5/16, and the reason that is I'm going to use a 5/16 outside diameter bushing in my router plate. I'm going to put it in there, and that's going to give me the exact hole locations so that I can mount my router. Before we drill any of these holes, we're going to go ahead and cut out the 1/4-inch slot for the fences on both sides with a 1/4-inch spiral upcut bit, or you could use a 1/4-inch straight bit, whatever you have. Just make sure you use an edge guide on your router and stop on the drawing. The hole in the center for aligning the router, that's optional. Use whatever you have that is, whatever size hole is going to be the best for you for aligning your router. If you don't have a bushing, you can get a centering cone for $4 or $5, but there's lots of ways to do that. If you have a small palm router like a Bosch Colt, that hole opening I think is 1.5 inches, so you could use an 1.5 inch Forstner bit and just do a teeny little hole right there and put the center of the Forstner bit in that hole, and then put your bottom plate around the Forstner bit. So that size hole is optional. The rest have to be 3/16. Some are going to get tapped from the bottom, some are going to get tapped from the top. So here we go. Talk a little bit more about mounting the router, because this is kind of where things get critical, because you really want your router to be centered, and you're going to get to benefit from my mistakes here. Originally what I had was a 1/4-inch hole here in the middle, which would then I'd put in a 1/4-inch bit in my router and align the router that way. But what I realized you could do is, by putting a bushing in the bottom plate of your router and drilling a slightly larger hole, I could mount this directly in here, and that's going to give me the exact alignment I need. And one of the things that I wish I had done over here was drill a very small hole first, then countersunk for my bolt, and then drilled the 1/4-inch through hole for my bolts that attach my router to the plate. Now, this is just an aesthetic choice. I wish they just looked a little bit more even, but they're not off at all. The other thing I wish I had done is, with these 4 holes, is thought about aligning them perfectly with the jig. Again, an aesthetic choice that I didn't really think about, so I recommend just making sure you align your router plate the way you want to do it. Now, when cutting the center hole, it's hard to use a Forstner bit if you don't have a very small pilot hole or countersunk point that you would use with like a scratch awl. So what I figured out you can do is I was gonna take a 3/4 inch bit and mount it in my router, once the router's attached, of course, and then I'm gonna plunge this through the jig, and that's gonna give me a perfect 3/4 inch hole. I'm then gonna come back over here to my drill press, put a 3/4 inch Forstner bit here in the chuck, and then run it straight through and lock my router down so that it's holding it in the exact center location. I'm then gonna clamp the jig itself to my router table, then put a 2 3/4 inch Forstner bit in there, and with this clamped down securely, you don't need that pilot hole to get a perfectly centered hole with a Forstner bit. Good little trick when you need to find the center of a hole that your center punch is way too small for. That would be really hard to eyeball, and this is something you really want to get on, is find a drill bit that is the same size as that hole and use it to mark the center. So it just barely fits in there, and I can use that to get the perfect center. So here we go. Everything done, and we're ready to put it together. So here's kind of the big moment we've been waiting for, is to see what's underneath this. That is what good layout looks like, folks. Let's put it together. This thing is so useful. I mean, that montage was just me kind of screwing around with some scrap lumber, but I mean, circle cutting, you can cut the lips on the end of tables, mortising jig, center finding jig, clearing off the cheeks of tenons, flipping it over, using it as a router table. I mean, it's just so useful, and I can't wait to really get into this on some projects. So don't forget, we're giving away the handmade one. I have full-size plans on my website. This will come with all the hardware. You'll just have to make the fences for it with some scrap wood. There's full-size plans available on my website. So you can print those out at Kinko's for $4.50 full size, or you can print them out with Adobe Acrobat and it'll print like 8 pages and you can tape them together. The directions are on there. Also comes with the DWG and MMG files for CNC. I did another video on CNC. It was released at the same time as this. You can see how I cut this out with a machine. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Stay safe in the shop. Check me out on Instagram. Click the smash button and have a wonderful day.